Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Jonathan Yakasha from 9 Sigma, and welcome to the Nike Material Recovery Challenge webinar. On your screen right now, you will see our agenda for today's webinar. Representatives from Nike and 9 Sigma will be talking about Nike Grind, the Nike Grind process, the challenge overview, and we'll also be handling some of your questions. First off, however, I'd like to introduce our panelists today. We are joined by three great speakers. On your right side of the screen, you will see Pam Semenik, Senior Program Manager with 9 Sigma. And then on your left, we're joined by two representatives from Nike, Eric King and Peggy Reed. Peggy is the Director of the Nike Grind program itself, and Eric is the Director of Open Innovation for Nike Sustainable Business and Innovation. Our panelists will present detailed information about the challenge, why Nike is undertaking this endeavor, what technologies are of interest, and more. They will also respond to questions submitted by you, our listeners. We welcome any additional questions you may have about this challenge. Please submit your questions to us at grandchallenge@9sigma.com. That email once again, grandchallenge@9sigma.com. Don't worry if you didn't write it down quick enough. We'll display it on the screen later in the webinar. At this time, I would like to turn things over to Eric King from Nike, who will tell you more about this challenge. Eric?
Thanks, Jonathan. And hello, good morning, everybody. I'm very excited to be here with you guys talking about the Nike Circular Innovation Challenge. So I want to start by giving a little bit of an intro to sustainability at Nike and why we're doing this challenge. So our mission at Nike is to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. And by athlete, we mean everybody. We believe that if you have a body, you are an athlete. We also believe that the science is right, climate change is real, and we must take action now to power and protect the future of sport. We know that this will require that the world rethinks how our industrial systems and economies work, and we know that it's not enough to adapt to what the future may bring, but that the future we want must be created through sustainable innovation. At Nike, we have a proud legacy, over 30 years of sustainable innovation. And I want to just go over a couple of quick examples of what we mean by that. Take Flyknit. Flyknit is a performance footwear upper that has disrupted the traditional method of making shoes. It's been around for more than a century. With Flyknit, we can micro-engineer every stitch of an upper, placing performance characteristics exactly where they're needed and not where they're not. And by replacing the traditional cut and sew manufacturing process, the way shoes have been made for decades, Flyknit reduces the creation of waste by about 60%. And since its introduction in 2012, Flyknit has averted the creation of more than 3 million pounds of waste. And we're not just eliminating waste from our own industry, we're also actively looking to reduce waste in the world around us. Nike is the footwear and apparel industry's leading user of textiles made from discarded plastic bottles. Since 2000, we have been converting reclaimed plastic bottles into high-performance polyester yarns for our products. And since then, we have diverted more than 3 billion plastic bottles into product that otherwise may have ended up in landfill. And in fact, as of now, every pair of Flyknit uppers are made with recycled polyester. So every pair of Flyknit shoes that you buy not only are creating less waste in their manufacturing, but are also actively removing waste from the world around us. So these are good examples of how Nike is pushing the boundaries and moving us toward what we call a circular economy. A circular economy is a world in which materials we make products from can be used and reused at their highest possible potential perpetually in the economy. So we're also thinking about what happens to our footwear at the end of its useful life. Since 1990, Nike's Reuse a Shoe program has collected more than 30 million pairs of used shoes. These shoes are ground up and separated into their basic material types, rubber, foam, and textiles, for reuse. These recycled materials, along with manufacturing scrap collected from our contract footwear factories, make up what we call Nike Grind. Nike Grind is a palette of recycled materials that we collect and manage for reuse. Some Nike Grind materials recycled back into Nike products, and some Nike Grind is repurposed into non-Nike products, primarily products like sport surfaces, like running tracks, gym floors, synthetic turf infill, as well as carpet cushioning. Nike Grind materials have been incorporated into more than 1 billion square feet of sport surfaces and other flooring materials since the beginning of the program. But a key limitation of the reuse issue program is that recycling footwear is really hard. Most athletic shoes are made up of at least 24 components and materials that are bound together with adhesives and stitching. If we want to recycle those constituent materials back to their highest possible potential, realizing that circular economy at the end of a shoe's life, we first need to separate and recover those materials in as pure form as we possibly can. And that's not easy. The process Peggy's going to describe for you in a minute here is, as far as we know, the best in the world recycling process for footwear material recovery. But we're betting, through this challenge, we're betting that with your help, we can introduce cutting-edge new technologies into this process so we can get even closer to truly recovering pure materials at the end of a footwear's life. And so, as a new and exciting component of this overall approach to sustainable innovation we've kind of touched on here, this challenge represents one more step on our journey to create better and waste less. And with that, I'm now going to turn it over to Peggy, who's going to give you guys a bit more of an overview of the existing footwear recycling process. Peggy?
Great. Thanks, Eric. So this is the part in the webinar where we kind of get to geek out a little bit and deep dive more on the technology. So let's start with where the shoes come from. There are essentially two sources for the material that's processed through our post-consumer footwear recycling program. The first is what Eric mentioned, Nike's Reuse a Shoe program, so consumer footwear, and the other is Nike's Samples and Defective footwear. And these are only athletic shoes, so no boots or high heels or anything like that. We also don't process shoes with metal, think eyelets, or hard plastics like you find in cleats. Shoes from North America are consolidated and processed in Memphis, Tennessee, and shoes across Europe are consolidated and processed in Belgium. So on this next slide here, you'll see a schematic of the process. On the left, you'll see that once we actually have the shoes, they are sorted manually to remove anything with metal or shoes with hard plastic parts, which I mentioned before. And the reason for this is that the metal components can damage the knives of the granulator, and hard plastics need to be processed separately. So once sorted, shoes are loaded on a conveyor belt and granulated. Again, we have another metal detector in here in line, which gives us an extra layer of protection against those metal-containing shoes. After the granulation, the particles and fibers are passed through a screen that you see at the bottom left. Particles that are too big to pass through the screen essentially just keep looping back again and again and get further granulated until they're small enough to pass through the screen. So then comes the material separation part of the process. Exiting the granulator, particles and fibers are transported to a shaker sieve table. And the purpose of that shaker sieve is to roughly separate fibers, which come from the upper part of the shoe, from particles of foam and rubber that originate in the midsole and the outsole of the shoe. The fiber stream is then conveyed using air to a fiber container, and those fibers are discharged to containers using cyclones. The rest of the material that still contains rubber, foam, and some fiber is transported to a zigzag sieve, where a combination of these zigzag sieves and airflow further separate the textile fibers from the foam and rubber. This remaining fiber, or what we call fluff, is air separated and discharged using those same cyclones to the fiber containers. So now we essentially remove the fiber from this, and we're left with the rubber and foam. This fiber-free material stream moves to a shaker table next, which you see at the bottom middle of the slide, where the rubber and foam particles, which obviously have different densities, are density separated. The rubber stream, the resulting rubber stream, is then diverted to a rubber container, and the foam-rich stream goes to a foam container. So So these outputs you see on the right side of the slide are mostly, but not completely separated materials. Rubber and foam outputs are roughly 85 to 90% pure, and the fiber fluff contains roughly 20% cross-contamination, mostly from the foam, the lighter density. Our belief is that the closer we can get to 100% pure material outputs, the greater the reuse potential is. But we need more ideas how to get there, because quite honestly, as Eric said, this is a really tough nut to crack. Reusing, just by comparison, reusing new, unused scrap materials from the manufacturing process is, relatively speaking, a heck of a lot easier because, as you can imagine, it's pure rubber, pure foam, pure cotton, pure leather, whatever. But segregating and refining mixed materials back into their component parts, that's much tougher. So while we're proud of the work that we've been doing to recover useful materials from these shoes at the end of their life, we definitely believe we can do more. So in short, the goal here is to uncover new ways to recover even purer and thereby, as I mentioned, more usable materials from the process of recycling shoes. We're looking for new approaches that might augment this existing process. And while we like to say that innovation is in our DNA at Nike, we know we're not the only ones. We know there's a world of brilliant organizations and innovators like you guys out there who, like us, see quote-unquote waste as a valuable resource and are as motivated as we are to kind of push the boundaries of how we can recapture and reuse and keep these materials and their highest best use for as long as possible. So with that, I'll turn it back over to our host and challenge partner 9 Sigma, Pam.
Thanks for that great overview, Peggy. Hi, everybody. This is Pam Semenik. I am a Senior Program Manager with 9 Sigma. 9 Sigma is an open innovation company with connections to global technology providers. We excel at activating technical communities to find potential solutions from other industries. I'm going to tell you a little more about how the challenge works. And the challenge consists of 2 key phases. You'll see the timeline on your screen. Phase 1 opened on February 27th, and it will close on May 1st at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. During Phase 1, we are seeking proposals for technologies that can improve footwear recycling. Keep in mind that although prototypes aren't required for this initial submission, Nike will expect a prototype or some other proof of concept by the end of the second phase. So do please try to plan ahead for that. Proposals that clearly indicate a plan to develop a proof of concept in Phase 2 will be especially competitive for this contest. After the call for initial proposals closes on May 1st, Nike will evaluate all those proposals against the listed success criteria, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. And then they will select up to 5 entrants to become finalists in Phase 2. We expect to notify all the Phase 1 participants regarding our selection sometime around late May or early June. In Phase 2, each finalist will be invited to develop a proof of concept. To facilitate this development, each finalist will receive a $10,000 grant. Nike may also be able to send material samples upon request if that helps test and develop the concepts that were brought forward in that Phase 1. Finalists will be expected to submit a demonstration of their approach and other application materials by July of 2018, and we will communicate those exact dates sometime after Phase 1. From the pool of up to 5 finalists, 1 winner will be selected. The winner will be notified in August and will receive an award of $50,000. Since the purpose of this challenge is to discover the best possible ideas for reducing waste, Nike will consider pursuing any promising ideas, not just the winner's idea, for potential partnerships. Please refer to the challenge summary on the website for all the submission details, including the criteria that the proposals will be judged against. On this slide, though, we wanted to highlight some of the key features that Nike will want to see in any proposed approach. So, innovation. Nike is interested in proposed solutions that represent significant advances in the way that footwear can be recycled. They're looking to see results. They would like to see proposed solutions that can clearly demonstrate an improvement in the purity of recycled material output against what's currently possible. And they're also looking for feasibility. So Nike is especially interested in solutions that have a clear path to commercial readiness for footwear recycling at scale. This requires a robust process that's fast, efficient, and able to handle many different types of shoes and shoe materials. We wanted to throw some example approaches out. Nike knows of a few possible approaches to this problem, and I wanted to share those with you just as some examples of some of the things that they're looking for. Please note, though, that these examples are by no means the only approaches that he's interested in. We're really just providing these so that they might provide a catalyst for your creativity. So some of the examples listed here, new component separation techniques, solutions that can cleanly separate footwear into its major components. If there's a current mechanism out there that can cleanly separate rubber outsoles, foam midsoles, and textile uppers, as was described earlier, the whole problem of recycling gets a lot easier to solve. Another example is granular material separation. And these are solutions that can rapidly identify and recover specific materials from granulated mixed material streams. Perhaps there's some technology that can cleanly pick rubber and foam out of a mixture of materials, for example, and this separation capability could be added to the downstream side of the existing recycling process. Another example of an approach that Nike would be interested in are adapted technologies. So we know that there are other industries that are also pushing the boundaries of what's possible for material recovery. And we'd be happy to see ideas for how these technologies might be adapted to advance the clean recovery of footwear material. Another example of an approach that we're interested in are advanced technologies. We're excited to find ideas for new separation methods not currently employed in footwear recycling, such as the use of acoustics, electrostatics, sensing and vision capabilities, and even robotics. All right, this screen shows you what the website looks like after you log in. You can submit your idea to the challenge through the 9 Sigma platform by following the prompt to respond now and filling out the provided form. You'll be asked to provide information about your proposed approach, including what stage of the current recycling process your technology is meant to address, a description of what your mechanism can do, on what material types your approach operates, and the maturity of your technology. You'll also be asked to describe how your submission improves upon current recycling processes in terms of purity yield. We ask you to provide any evidence to support your technology claims, including things such as data sheets, drawings, video links to demonstrate your approach. You will be able to upload files through the submission form on the web portal. The response form will give you space to tell us about yourself, your team, and your team's experience in solving difficult technology challenges. We'll ask you to describe your plan to demonstrate your technology's application to footwear recycling as is required for Phase 2. Please note that we will not accept any confidential information through this portal. And again, I always want to go back to the web page. If you look at the web page, you can get all the details of this challenge along with all of the rules. This slide shows eligibility. We welcome submissions from individuals, teams, and companies. We have pre-approved eligibility for the countries listed here. If you'd like to submit your idea, but your country is not on this list, we welcome you to send us your idea anyway. Submissions from other countries will be considered on a case-by-case basis. Please note that this challenge is void where prohibited by law. And again, before submitting your proposal, please carefully read over the challenge brief and the rules. So that's it for the challenge process details. If you have questions we haven't covered here, we encourage you to visit the challenge platform. If you still can't find an answer, please feel free to send us your questions to grandchallenge@9sigma.com. And speaking of questions, we'd like now to address a few of the questions that you've sent in.
Great. Thank you, Pam, Eric, and Peggy. We'll begin with your questions now. So our very first question is, what is Nike planning to do with my idea?
I'll take that one. This is Eric. That's a great question. So really, we're interested in finding new tools that we can incorporate into our existing and potentially future footwear recycling processes. What we really want, what we're hoping for, is that from your proposal, we'll be able to partner with you to test and implement that solution to help us significantly advance how we're recycling footwear. Nike is not seeking to own any intellectual property you may have in your ideas.
Thank you, Eric. Our next question, how much Nike Grind is produced through footwear recycling?
I'll take that one. Roughly about a pound of material is produced for every pair of shoes that's processed. So of that, today, approximately 55% of that material output is the textiles fiber fluff. 25 to 30% is rubber, and the remaining 15 to 20% is an EVA foam.
Thank you, Peggy.
Yep.
Our next question goes in a slightly different way. I have an idea for how shoes could be made differently so they can be recycled more easily. Should I submit it?
That's another great question. So we definitely appreciate the thoughtfulness of this question. And the idea of design for disassembly is a very active area of development in the push toward a circular economy overall. For the purposes of this challenge, though, we're really only interested in exploring new ways to recycle better all the athletic footwear that's already out there in the world. And that's honestly a pretty challenging technical problem all by itself. So for now, we're keeping the scope of this particular call for solutions focused on the challenge outlined in the brief to come up with new technologies for recycling footwear.
Very good. Our next question, are only shoes included? And as a follow-up, is it only Nike shoes?
I'll grab that one. So are only shoes included? Yes. We're only processing footwear through the recycling program today. And to your second question, while most of the shoes collected are Nikes, we do get other brands' shoes from consumers through our Reuse a Shoe program.
Okay, thank you. Our next question, my team consists of individuals from some countries not on the pre-approved list. Should we still submit our idea?
I'll take that one. So first, we'd certainly encourage everyone to give a close look to the challenge rules before submitting. All listed team members must be from eligible countries. But as Pam mentioned, we want to note that submissions from countries not included on that list of pre-approved countries may still be considered for the challenge on a case-by-case basis, of course, in accordance with local laws. On top of that, it's worth noting that the submissions that are not deemed eligible for the contest prize may still be considered for further collaboration with Nike. So in general, if you're on the fence about whether or not you think you should submit your idea, we'd encourage that you do.
Okay, great. Thank you, Eric. Our next question. I am a robotics engineer working on assembly automation for manufacturing. Would you consider an adaptation of my work to fit your shredding process?
I'll take that one. So yeah, absolutely. We totally recognize that good ideas come from anywhere. So applying solutions from one field to a challenge in another is often the best way to spur that creative thinking and creative problem solving. So if you know of advanced manufacturing techniques that could be applied to product disassembly and material refinement, that would definitely be an interesting approach, and we'd love to see it.
Okay, great. What is the more important evaluation criterion? How long it takes to separate a shoe, or how completely it can separate the shoe into component materials?
You want me to take that, Eric? I'll take that one. So at the end of the day, the most important criterion is essentially how the proposed solution can help us recover more pure materials. So that's the primary goal. Now, with that said, when we're evaluating between solutions that demonstrate improved material recovery, solutions that demonstrate the greatest process efficiencies would, certainly be favored. So, yeah, between the two, if you can solve for the first, between the two, we're going to be looking for process efficiencies for sure.
Great. Very good. Our next question, I think, will turn more towards Pam from 9 Sigma. If we have multiple different technologies, can we submit more than one response?
And the answer to that, I would say yes, you can, although we do encourage you to please read through the evaluation criteria carefully and look at the response instructions. In some cases, it might be that combining more than one approach into a single submission will help to address more of that evaluation criteria.
Okay, thank you, Pam. Turning back to the folks from Nike, you say that you want us to provide a tangible proof of concept. What does that mean?
That's a good question. So yeah, we'd like to see ideas advanced that are ready to be demonstrated. But I'd say that we take a pretty broad definition of what we mean by proof of concept. It could be anything from a fully functioning, pilot facility to a tabletop demonstration proof of concept. So for those ideas that do advance to the second phase, we would like to see some evidence of that capability. Could be any combination of things, including, quantitative material recovery data, material recovery samples that you could send to us, video demonstration of the process and concept. And to help with that, we're really thinking about the second phase of this challenge as a development sprint, which is why, as Pam mentioned, ideas that move to the second phase will receive $10,000 grants. We could also send you sample material to use in the development of that demonstration, and we're happy to work with you on that. So just let us know what you think you'll need.
Okay, very good. Our next question, I think we'll stay with the folks from Nike. I have an idea for how to use Nike Grind once it's been recovered. Should I submit it?
That's a great question. So I'm happy to say we're running, at the same time we're running this challenge, we're also running a simultaneous challenge on another platform that we're calling the Design with Grind Challenge. The challenge specifically asks how we might use these Nike Grind materials to make more innovative products moving forward. So if you think you have an idea that might be applicable to that challenge, we welcome you to go over to that challenge site to see if your idea may fit. The website URL, I think it should be on your screen. It's www.nikeinnovationchallenge.com/design. That's www.nikeinnovationchallenge.com/design.
Okay, great, Eric. And we've got one more question. I have a sensing technology that is currently used in the meatpacking industry. Would Nike be interested, even if it might not address all of the recycling issues?
I'll take that one. Sure. As I mentioned before, we definitely welcome solutions adapted from other industries. So if your proposed solutions can be applied here, absolutely submit. And keep in mind, too, that your proposed solutions don't have to address every single aspect of footwear material recovery in order to be interesting and competitive. Any ideas that help us recover more usable material and help us kind of take that step forward to a more circular future will be of interest and welcome.
Yeah, and this is Pam. I'd like to chime in on this one too. At Nine Sigma, we get a lot of people asking us whether we think that their idea is applicable to the contest and the challenge. And in general, we strongly encourage any potential solution provider to take a look at the solution criteria that's in the challenge brief, because that's what we want the desired technology to be able to achieve. Your potential solution doesn't have to address everything, as Peggy just mentioned, but it should clearly address one or more of those key criteria. So, please do take a look, read through that carefully, look at the criteria, see how your potential solution could fit. If you still have questions about whether your solution might be of interest to Nike through this challenge, then please feel free to reach out to Nine Sigma at grandchallenge@ninesigma.com, and we'll do our best to provide guidance.
Great. Thank you to Peggy, Eric, and Pam for going through all of those questions and answers for us today. So, to our attendees, what can you do today? First and foremost, right at the top of the list there, you will see the URL for the contest page. It's ninesites.ninesigma.com/web/material-recovery. Next, as Pam just mentioned, if you need assistance, please contact us at our provider help desk. The email address is right there on the screen, grandchallenge@ninesigma.com. Thank you to all of you who joined us today. A couple of quick reminders. This webinar was recorded and we'll be posting it on the challenge page in the coming days, so please keep an eye out for that. Next, And very importantly, the submission deadline, May 1st, 2018 at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Please be sure to get your submitted in advance of that 5 p.m. deadline. We won't be able to accept any submissions after 5 p.m. If you have, as I said, any additional questions or need any assistance with your submission, please feel free to reach out to us. We're here to help you. Thank you once again to our panelists for their time today, and to our attendees, thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing your submissions. Thank you all very, very much, and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Guys.